Always a fun start, right, Dwayne? Gets the adrenaline popping. So we can start with some fear hormones kicking off, some chaotic things. Hi, Kim. Thanks for joining. I'm looking forward to our chat in a few minutes. Michael, welcome. All of you are really hardcore joining a meeting like this and on a summer Friday, or don't have anything else to do, and it was an easier day to join. Matthew, good to see you again. Good to see you again. I think we might have some new folks joining us because we made a lot of new friends at ATD a couple months ago. And so I'm hoping that all of you veterans can show them how we like to do it. We love to leave the camera on if at all possible so I can see your smiling faces. We love to rename ourselves if you're Zoom fluent, so we know what organization you're with, Kevin Cruz dash LeadX. And we keep the microphones muted unless, of course, you've got something you want to add or question. Then we invite you to come on live and, of course, chat it up. People are warming up their fingers. This is my favorite part. Let us know. This is summertime. So where'd you go on vacation? Where do you plan to go? Matthew, Cancun in May, going to Mexico. We got Bahamas. Karen's in Montana. Oh, so many good places. I'm loving this. Kim, Ireland, still on my bucket list. I'm Irish, like a schmidge. Brazil, okay. Hey, Krisha, thank you for that compliment on these meetings. Our crazy goal, of course, is to make this meeting your favorite meeting of the month. Now, that might be a very high aspirational goal, but let's go for it, right? That's what we're going to do that. Rochelle, yeah, feel free to eat lunch off camera. Or on camera. Either way is completely fine. Italy, Matt, what parts of Italy? I love Italy. Been there a few times. Boston. Michael's going to be in Boston. I'm loving this. I've got I don't have it lined up. I'm going to see all of you in one more meeting before I go. But in September, taking 2 weeks off to do a safari in Kenya, bucket list trip. I don't even remember taking 2 weeks off of work ever, but I'm gonna definitely try that. We're enjoying some Take It Easy from the Eagles just to welcome everyone in, give people time to warm up. Dwayne, give me a thumbs up if you think your microphone is fixed. Otherwise, we'll just keep waving at you. What do you think? I don't know. I'm not hearing you. Normally, I welcome my co-host, the Dwayne Best from Hologic. He's got some microphone issues this week, so I bet he'll resolve them before long. But that's why we're not welcoming Dwayne verbally here. We're just gonna wave at him. Let's go through the agenda. I want to, for all of you who are new, I'm Kevin Cruz. I'm the founder of LeadX. This is a community of practice for leadership development professionals. It's an invite-only thing. We keep coaches and vendors and consultants out, and LeadX stays out of the breakout rooms. We're on this crazy mission to spark the next 100 million leaders around the world. Leadership is a superpower. We think everybody's a leader. Leaders need to be ignited. We obviously can't do it ourselves. We want to support you and your friends as you do that. Today, we've got our 1 hour format and special mini case study spotlight on how leadership development helped dramatically reduce turnover at Lippert. Very cool conversation lined up. We want to make sure that you meet new friends. Social capital is so important. They always have that old phrase, dig your well before you're thirsty. We're helping you to dig your well. So we always do a short 10 or 15 minute breakout just so you can say hi to 1 or 2 new people, make some new LinkedIn friends, perhaps. And then we've added, time permitting, I like to do sort of like AI trick of the month or something for those of you who are interested in AI. In previous months, we showed how I created an avatar of myself, fake Kevin Cruz, because you just can't get enough of Kevin Cruz on LinkedIn, apparently. And we showed last month how to create custom AI songs to support your training programs. And I thought today I would just do a couple of minute demonstration about how you can use AI as a personality coach to talk about your DISC profile or your Hogan profile or your insights discovery or your social style, and learn a little bit about prompt engineering along the way. So Candace just got back from Tulum. I've been to Tulum once and loved it very much. Know a lot of expats, a lot of people moving to Tulum as well. Next week, of course, we will email you a recording, notes, and any other assets along the way here. And before we move right into our case study, a couple of quick announcements. So especially if you are a new friend, first time here, in fact, type it in the chat. I'm curious, are any first timers here? Anybody that we met at ATD and this is your first time? I'd love to say hello. Hey, Jason, awesome. That's great to see. Oh, we got some more. Tom, Risa, awesome. Janice. So for all the new joiners, oh my gosh, my heart is overflowing.
A lot of
ATD was obviously a success. We've got the LeadX Vault. So as a member of this community, you get access. Now, Evan will drop a link here soon. You get access to all kinds of materials that your peers have generously donated. So leadership playbooks, for rolling out competencies, action plans from LeadX on a variety of topics, a template for a slide deck to sell to get more resources from your boss, from your CEO. I mean, this just scratches the surface. And we're going to be adding something today generously from Kim as well. So look for the LeadX Vault. It is a password protected thing. It's for our members only. And we like to try to give stuff away for free as often as we can. We got a cool one today. So LeadX, many of you know, we are putting the final touches on a new EQ, emotional intelligence workshop and total solution. And we want to know if you want to help us to test it out, beta test it. So this is for no cost, only for you, the community practice members. It's going to be 6-hour workshop, virtual, of course, in 3 2-hour sessions, morning sessions for flexibility. Not only that, you then get 3 months access to an ICF certified, EQ certified coach. This is not a robot. It's a human. 3 months of coaching. You'll get the full participant kit, the EQ assessment, our new emotional intelligence book, 52 strategies job aid, and of course the LeadX app. And we'll give you a little digital badge you can keep and put on LinkedIn as well. So Evan has dropped the link to a form if you are interested. Now, we don't have the date yet. I'm guessing 4 to 6 weeks from now. 6 weeks from now, maybe. I'm like Elon Musk. It's like, oh, we'll have self-driving cars and self-driving taxis next week. It's like 4 years later. So don't want to oversell this, but about 6 weeks from now, we're going to be launching this pilot test, this beta test. And so fill out that form if you want to get that date and get on the wait list for that. And then the last thing is not free, but $500 discount. We, of course, are partners with Blanchard. We offer SL2 workshops and resources. And so our next public SL2 workshop is August 13th through the 15th. It's, if you go to Blanchard or any other site for SL2, it's $2,000. We're offering it for $1,500, so you get a nice discount on that. And you get 3 months access to an SL2 certified coach and the LeadX app. So if you want more information or want to sign up, I think Evan will drop the link to SL2 momentarily. Awesome. All right. Enough with the announcements. I am excited for our guest. And Dwayne, I'm going to come back to you maybe during a breakout to see if we've got microphone action, because I'll bring up some news.
I'm good to go, bro.
You're good to go. Thanks for solving that. Thanks for solving that. We're going to come back to you then. So this is amazing. She is a former NCAA all-academic diver from the University of Notre Dame. She received her graduate degree in leadership coaching for organizational change at St. Mary's College of California. She serves as a leadership coach, trainer, and trusted advisor to leaders at all levels in her organization. We've got an exciting case study. Please welcome Kim Lysiak-Frawley. Kim, where are you? There you are.
Right here, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear, and I'm going to move you so I can see you loud and clear. Kim, let's start. Now, we met when I interviewed you for a Forbes article. I guess it was, well, this probably has a date on it. Yeah, so last year, about a year ago.
Hmm.
And let's start at the beginning. For those who aren't familiar, tell us a little bit about Lippert and where you're located and your role in the organization.
Absolutely. Are you comfortable if I share a slide? Because I am a visual learner, and so for
Oh,
anybody
slide.
watching, okay,
You've got
wonderful. Do I
control.
have the ability to do that?
Yes.
Okay. Um, Perfect. Okay, sharing my screen. Hopefully you can see it.
Um, I here we go. Here we go. Yes, we do, Kim.
Cool. Well, my name is Kim Leeshock Frawley. Kevin, thanks for the warm welcome. You asked a little bit about what I do and what Lippert is, so I've got a one slide there for us to take a quick look at. But my title is Director of Leadership Development, and I've been with Lippert a little over 5 years. A little bit about us, and I'm not going to go through all of this, but in case you were wondering, we're a publicly traded company on the New York Stock Exchange. We are, I want to say, like the secret to anything that runs on wheels that's not automotive. Primarily automotive. We do serve the automotive industry as well, but basically we're a company that creates and builds all of the components that you would see on products that fuel funds. So think about RVs, marines, towing, tractor, equestrian hitches, everything you can imagine. And we're a global company. We're roughly around 12,500 team members strong. During seasonally, it can get up to about 15,000. We've got 140 facilities, 25 brands. We're big. We skyrocketed during COVID. If anyone remembers, the first thing that people wanted to do was vacation, and the safest thing to do was get an RV and be kind of safe. And so we just grew. It's a great company to invest in. So we sell to the OEMs. So basically, we are kind of like the one major company that sends all of our products to. If you see a school bus on the road, we make about 99% of all school bus windows in America, for example. We sell to colleges, little beds that you see in college dorm rooms. We make those beds, the same kind of beds that go with RVs.
That's quite a range and quite a scale. I didn't think about the benefits during that time when it felt like everyone was adopting a dog and going to national parks, right? And
It's
baking
exactly
bread. Let's not forget about, 1 minute we're all gluten free and the next minute we're all
sourdough.
baking bread, right? So that
Exactly.
was quite a time of growth. And you had joined, that means you joined the company right before the pandemic?
Yeah, so I was in person for about a year and a half right before
Okay.
that.
That's amazing. Now, the remarkable part about the story, I mean, we could go into so many things, but it's the fact that let's start at the beginning, which is that there was a horrible turnover problem, right?
Yes. Oh man. So for those who may not know this about the in manufacturing industry, there are several like industrial revolutions that happened, and what this led to was mass production. I mean, we went from not making things slowly to now doing churn and burn. People kind of just wanted to get stuff out the door, and so Lippert, just like the rest of the manufacturing industry, was a product of that. And our people, if they could make 25 cents more down the road, they were going to do it. And it was a rough environment. And people always complained about the black shirts in northwestern Indiana. That was Lippert. Nobody wanted to work with us because we were tough and we were the biggest. And it was a painful place. People did Lippert was a dirty word. And this is kind of what our environment was like, to be honest. We had a really unhealthy culture, lots of turnover. To what Kevin said, we were at about 130% year over year turnover. So we were losing more people than we were keeping, and we didn't care. And at one point, our CEO, Jason Lippert, had a real come to Jesus moment where he said, "Hey, Jason, it's not what you're doing, it's how you're doing it, and we need to change." And this was an incredible leadership story. Like hit the case study on Jason himself. I'm sure we're in the process of writing a book because he did this whole 180 and is just an incredible human being. And so he had this come to Jesus, like, we need to take care of our people better. And so we went through a lot of things to do that. And this is just a really high level of that cultural journey. But the first key ones that I would mention or worth sharing is when Jason had that realization that there was a better way to do business, that everyone matters and that we need to take care of our people, because if they feel cared about, they'll stay longer and they go home happier and healthier. And if we did our business better, and our people are going home happier and healthier, that also impacts the community around us. The RV industry in Indiana in particular, right near the RV capital of the world, which is in Elkhart, Indiana, it makes up the entire area. I mean, a rising tide could raise all ships if we just rose it together. So a couple of main steps we took initially, right at the beginning of this journey, Jason committed to that, the journey of focusing on our people, and he hired his first leadership development coach, and that was his first step. And he realized how important that was, and deployed it across the company. And he realized, holy moly, only one coach for all of our leaders is not enough. And so we started growing that population, as well as we changed really important vernacular in the company, from employee to team member, from boss to leader, because you'll learn further on, when we share the gift we're giving you today too. Words matter at our company, and we talk psychology all the time. And so by changing the language, it was a really important way that we were positioning who we are and how we cared about you. That moment of mattering was really important. So then Jason committed to doing listening sessions across the whole company. And so for the last 10, almost 12 years now, every week, he goes to a different part of our business and just sits and listens, and he'll cascade a little bit of vision, but then wants to ask the people around us, like, what could we do better? How could we be better serving you? And it led to some pretty, initially, and this is going to sound silly, but it made a huge difference. He made some major capital investments into our break rooms and our bathrooms, and even our parking lots. We had people parking a mile down the road because they couldn't afford to get their tires fixed, because they kept getting flat tires by just driving in our parking lots, for example. And so, yeah, air quality. We upgraded air quality. The bathrooms weren't cleaned regularly. I mean, there's small things. We had one microwave for 1,000 people at lunchtime. And so there was, I mean, we were really stuck in the old mindset of manufacturing. And so we did all of these things among all the other things you'd see here on this list. And it was amazing. To Kevin's point, just by the intentional focus, what we measure gets managed. And our attrition dropped from that 120, 130%. I think it maxed out down to below 30%. In 6 years, we're hovering right around 28% to 30%. And now we're, instead of focused just on the raw attrition number, we're focused on that voluntary number, because that regrettable losses are really important to us right now. And so just a quick little fun fact, right where that star is on this image is where we started our cultural journey. Look at our stock price, and the stock price and the financials just completely went up. And so if you're anything like us, working in leadership development anywhere, the first thing that our executive team asks us is, like, how do we measure your success? Because you can't measure one particular thing, other than maybe retention kind of helps, but it's more than just the leadership development department. There isn't one measure. So we have to use a whole smattering of measures of, here's what happens when we focused on our people. Our business also grew. So this is our acquisitions over the period of time. And you can see companies not only were open to being bought now, but we had more capital because we changed the reputation. It took a long time, but it was interesting. So hopefully, I don't know how much further you want me to go, Kevin.
So Kim, well, I love the slides, love the story, so I don't want to interrupt too much. And please, people can type questions into the chat, or at the end you can always raise your hand. I know Kim, you'll answer questions, but I'm sure I'm not alone when, like, already with what you shared, the big catalyst was Jason, right? And it is, and we know from the benchmark survey, et cetera, everyone's always talking about, how do I get more support? Or we're not aligned with the C-suite, or C-suite really doesn't care about leadership development, whatever that might be. Jason clearly is all about it now. And so can you share a little bit more? Like, it's very rare for someone to change. And so is this a family business? Was he the founder? Is he the son? Like, what's the hierarchy there? And then what happened?
Yeah, great question. So I failed to mention that we were a family-owned company, went public when Jason was in leadership. You can see in the top left-hand corner there, Larry passed it on to Doug, who passed it on to Jason. We are third generation Lippert. We have a lot of Lipperts working at Lippert as well, and we are very much a family company. I mean, we have lots of people who their brothers, sisters, cousins, in-laws, everybody works here because Indiana, I mean, our hub is in that main state of Indiana. But to your question there, yeah, we're family owned, and so there was a little bit of that family dynamic too of just the focus and his Larry and Doug had the history of caring about people, but when we started blowing up in size, when we went public, the shifting of priorities and metrics, what do our investors want to see? And so we're really focused on the numbers, and it got less personal
Yeah.
over a period of time there. So that period of time you can kind of see right around here is we started really growing, but Jason in his heart, I mean, this is truly an emotional intelligence, and I think he's a very spiritual man. So he had a moment of prayer. This is literally in a moment of prayer he had this experience where it was
Wow.
like, Jason, it's not about what you're doing, it's how you're treating your people.
Wow.
And so that was the big shift. And yeah, to your point, it leadership happens to and through the leader. And I just read in uh, the Hobby Lobby CEO's new book out, Leadership Not by the Book. He talks about how leaders take on the personality, or the business takes on the personality of the leader at the top, right? Very similar to kind of anything we've seen. When you don't have the executives bought in, it is really, really hard to do anything well. So we're blessed in that capacity.
And maybe just go, because I'm seeing questions about that issue, is sort of, outside of Jason, how did the most senior leaders support you? How did you get the rest of the team to develop,
Yeah,
as Jason did? Do you want to address any of that now before going on with the story?
I can. And feel free to take a screenshot of this, but like there are a lot of steps that we took to build buy-in beyond Jason. And like any system, anyone who's gone through systems intelligence, and I don't mean like technology systems, but like understanding systems intelligence across the board, it takes a long time to shift a system that's been like this for 40 years. I mean, so it took in those 6 years, we got a considerable amount of buy-in, but it took a lot of rounding and a lot of executive presence and a lot of, frankly, our team's presence as well in the business. And I'll get into our structure of how we're structured, because I think this is going to help, like, kind of show the investment that Lippert has had in the culture and leadership team. But we are not all sitting at corporate working on content and then delivering out from corporate. We all sit in our business units, and we're in the business. We're in all of the executive team meetings. We're in our stand-up meetings in the morning and give like a little quick leadership shout out or a deep thought of the day. Like, we're part of the business, and that has positioned for us to help the culture shift over time. I will say we are making considerable progress, but we're not perfect. But some of the things that we did do early on, Kevin, was including the executive team in the building of the core values, in the building of the leader qualities, in building of the mission statement. I know many of us probably have seen case studies on that too, but when they have they were a part of the process, now I have a reason to care. And yeah, so it went from being words up on a wall to then kind of converting our hearts and how we were going to live these out on a day-to-day basis.
Good, good. Kim, I mean, I have questions I could follow up on, from like our interview last year, but your slides are banging here. You have more that you can share with us?
Absolutely. So when Jason kind of had that aha moment, we decided to roll out what we call the bamboo story framing on what it is that we really care about. And many of you may or may not know the bamboo story, but the idea is when you plant bamboo seeds, you can till and water the soil for almost 5 years. And then beyond the 5-year mark, after a couple of months, all of a sudden the bamboo shoots will shoot up to 80 feet in just a short 6 weeks. And so we recognize how important it is to have a people strategy and the processes involved to make sure that we're tilling and watering the soil of leadership and culture development. Because what that leads to is that business growth and development, like I shared with you all with that image of like our acquisitions and our revenue and stock price. But then also ultimately Jason's vision and our vision as an executive team is that business is a force for good beyond Lippert. We want to help shift the industry. We want to help shift the community. And the hardest part is most people only see what is valued, which is how the company is doing from a financial perspective, right? And so we really had to get our board bought into this too, and like trying to figure out measures and ways to tell our story. And I will say where we're headed right now is looking at this, going from that high level of turnover to lower levels of turnover, and the quality rate being at a certain level. And those core values are not just up on the wall, they're actually being acted. And so the reason we care about culture is we have proven to show that it affects all of these things: efficiency, quality, safety, relationships, health, and innovation. And Jason, when he made that decision, he committed to it, Kevin. We have at one point, we almost had 30 people. We have a team of leadership coaches internally who also serve as that in the business, as much as we're on the business, helping out from so I'm a director of leadership development, but I also serve as a leadership coach to our executive team, all the way down to the director, AGM, sort of GM level. And then I have a team underneath me who is coaching the next layers and the next layers and the next layers, all the way down to our front line. And we're heavily invested in our people.
Kim, on this note, I don't know how candid you can be on this, but so this is rare these days to have coaches in-house, right? So especially since BetterUp came along, then there's many others, raise a bunch of venture capital, lower the price of coaching, have lots and lots of coaches out there that then companies, give you $1 million a year for all these seats, whether they get used or not, you all have your own data. And so it's rare. Once the BetterUps out there came around with a just outsource it, right? Buy it. You're paying per head over time. A lot of these in-house coaching teams disbanded, especially in the last 2 years during what I'm calling the Great Depression for leadership development. So again, just another sign like, hey, we're all in, and that includes budget. So we're doing this in-house. How are you justifying building out this team of full-timers versus hit the easy button and go to a coaching vendor?
Great question. So all of the people you see on this screen are owned and paid for by the division. They care enough to hire and pay for this particular resource because it's been proven to be effective. And so I will say that probably 5 or 7 years ago, we might have been part of the depression that you're talking about because we were still growing that culture journey. I saw a question here in the chat about like, how did you get through the tilling and the watering of the soil season? We had to story tell like crazy. And at the time, the leader we had, you can see here, Amber Selking is an insanely good storyteller about the impact that we were having. And so we were reporting out on inputs, outputs, and outcomes with qualitative and quantitative data. And as we've matured over time, the inputs, the outputs, which were really heavy when we're tilling and watering the soil, now we're shifted into really reporting out more on the outputs and the outcomes, showing how people's lives have changed, retention is improving, and everything. And I don't have a slide for that, but basically, if you think of like the weighting of like in the tilling and the watering of the soil, it was a lot of storytelling on inputs and outputs. And then as we've grown, it's been more outputs and outcomes.
And underlying that whole thing is patience and time, right? I mean, and so that's a hard lesson, but we hear it all the time. Oh, how do we convince our CEO? How do we convince so-and-so? It's not one meeting. It's not one PowerPoint presentation. you can do an amazing job. I love the emphasis on storytelling. I always say people will decide for emotional reasons, but they'll justify it with logical reasons. So I'm going to want to know those inputs and outputs, but it's
Sure.
really the outcomes that it's making my mind up. But until you have the outcomes, you're going to be patient with what you have, right?
Absolutely. And I think part of it starts kind of at we talk about a top-down, bottom-up approach. And so we have storytelling from the top down and we have a storytelling from a bottom-up approach where we know only, the 25, 27 that we have can only storytell so much for the 12,000.
Yeah.
And so how do we build the bench of storytellers that's not just us?
Yeah.
And and then also, do you have a couple of executives who are super bought in that have influence that can also be the ones to convert for you?
Mhm.
Because um you can't win everyone over. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I'm not everybody's cup of tea for coaching. Like, so that's a real thing, but if you hear it from the right person, then you could be bought in. But we do the qualitative and quantitative measures. Sorry, we do the quantitative measures purposefully because of those who are very logic driven as well.
Makes sense. I've got other questions, but I'm going to sit on them. What else you got for us?
So outputs. This is an example of an output where we're at the end of 23 here. This was part of our impact report. These are all the different types of programs that we've got going on right now, and they're continuing to evolve. But we've got our flagship program of Built to Lead, which is in 1 day experience for our all leaders across the company. And it's part of like the table stakes for leadership as well as our core value classes, which isn't on this list. And then we have Built to Grow, which is like a personal and professional development webinar where we bring in internal or external speakers. We've got our Lippert Women's Network, TRG, we've got Team Member Resource Group. Same thing with our military engagement team. Those are the two that have really stuck so far. We've got a mentor program that's kind of it's very new, but it is global and it's in the revamp process. And then we actually have kind of like Coca-Cola does. We have a chaplaincy program. We call it spiritual well-being. And that also is very on brand for our company and kind of where we're positioned in the US. But we do also offer spiritual support for team members opt in. This isn't something that they have to be a part of, but it's an offering. And we help our team members through that care model. You can see there in the bottom: connect, assess, resource, and encourage. So we also have a team of chaplains as a spiritual support as well. And so this is an output, and I was talking about outcomes. Here's an example of we actually do a survey Jason sends out twice a year. He wants to know about the wins. Where are we winning from our leadership action plans, which is going to be that gift we're giving out today. People are committing to these goals personally and professionally because we know if they're focused on these things, they'll go home happier and healthier. They're going to go change the world. We'll be that force for good. That is our vision, business as a force for good. And those are our all-time numbers through the end of last year. We had 8,089 dreams and goals achieved, that personally and professionally. I'm seeing Alex just threw in the chat, are you doing Dream Manager work? So we have a program very similar to the Dream Manager, but we actually call it Dream Achiever. And it has these mental components that basically help you out from a mindset preparation perspective to commit and achieve goals. It's really mindset training more than anything. And then we've got a program around it. And here are also some examples of our qualitative storytelling. We have thousands of stories, Kevin, that come through. We collect wins all the time. And you can see how these leadership action plans have really transformed the lives of our people, finishing the Chicago Marathon, seeing, they have one here, I lost 60 pounds and took charge of my mental well-being. I mean, we are helping change personally
So
because we're
great.
giving them space to develop themselves personally. And then also that helps translate to being the best version of themselves at work too. And so it really, I mean, some of the leadership action plan goals we have two sides of the card. I'm sure Evan or Kevin will send that to everyone, but there's two sides of the card. And one side is personal for a reason, and the other side is professional. So yeah, it's pretty neat to see. We've got all sorts of qualitative data, Kevin, on these are self-reported numbers on goals they've achieved in the last, at least for 2023, these are those. So couple of things that are new for us this year that might be helpful, because I don't know about you, but we keep trying to put our finger up to the wind to figure out what's the best way to measure that we're doing this stuff and we're doing it well and it's impacting. We're testing out this, and I don't know if you've ever heard of a culture index, but we're trying to measure culture by utilizing certain measures that we think Lippert, if we do all these things well, are a representative of a healthy and productive and effective business and culture organizational health type measure. And so we started measuring voluntary retention, our involvement in the community, leaders leading involvement in the community, our engagement score, and quality of life. So this is a brand new one for us. We're trying it out. We'll see how it goes, but if we can get this to work, it's a math game trying to get this index to work, but we're trying to trend data right now, and we're seeing leaders really buy into this, because some of the numbers, when they turn red on their dashboards, they're like, I got to focus on this thing. Again, it's what you manage gets measured, or what you measure gets managed. So
I was going to say, it comes back full circle to that statement. Everyone who's been coming to the COPs know that I'm always talking about my flaws and biases. And so here's another one. So Kim, I like, a bias of mine is, I don't hear it as often now, but for a while it's like, oh, we're managing the whole person. We're L&D for the whole person and bring the whole person to work. And a lot of that language was coming out of like California, Silicon Valley, right? It was a tech company. It's a small 1,000 person California company that raised a bunch of venture capital and makes no profit. Everyone talking about the whole person. Here, we're talking about heartland manufacturing, large company, caring about personal goals, tracking personal goals, worrying about the spiritual health of team members. Like, awesome and mind blowing. It's not at all where I would have expected to see it.
Diamond in the rough, to be honest. I've loved working here for that reason. It is surprising. And I guess my only comment to that would be, as much as it's executive buy-in, it's also like industry timing, right? And so I'm wondering, I watched a documentary, it was based in the 90s, and it was real story, General Magic. It's a documentary about General Magic and their go-to market. They basically built the iPhone before the iPhone was a thing, but they just missed the timing of the market, and it was too soon. It was way too advanced in the future. This was the perfect timing all of a sudden, when our caring about people was important, more important than it kind of had ever been, at least in our industry. I mean, to put it in perspective, we still don't really have safety standards across the RV industry. I mean, like there's a whole lot of crazy thing. Like we're not, from a business maturity perspective as an industry, like we're still really young in a lot of ways. And yeah, I don't know what else I would say other than the industry kind of taken this by storm. Now that we have this messaging is business as a force for good. We changed all our branding, so all of our trucks have how many hours we're investing in the and we also do events with our competitors and our customers, like volunteering in the community. We're just trying to do things that are different and be a force for good. We even have our own academy where we bring in competitors and customers to learn about how we've done this culture shift, because we care about the industry at large. It's literally part of our ethical responsibility, is if we know this information and it's helping us. And it also helps the well-being, like our well-being scores, or our well-being data, like how much money we're spending in healthcare is a huge priority of our board and Jason. And we're hoping to lower that score by people feeling like they matter.
Yeah.
And we're hoping to be the case study to show that we can shift those measures by caring about our people.
It's powerful stuff. Kim, you talked about the free gift, which I'm gonna steal the screen and show everyone. Let's get this on screen here. So you kindly, we're going to send out to everybody next week this PDF, which is the actual action plan, and it's a two-sided. And there's also a Spanish version as well, right, Kim?
Yep, English. Well, there are 9 languages. Yes,
We,
but we have English. I sent over English and
we're distributing the English and Spanish versions.
yeah. So basically, the way that this goes is think of, so you have your annual goals that you would set for a year. This is sort of the 90-day smaller goals to get you through each quarter. And you see that we have a personal side and a professional side. We've got the explanation of SMART goals, and that business as a force for good little corner there, Kevin,
Yeah.
is us encouraging everyone to be generous with their time. If money wasn't an object, what would you be doing for the community?
Mhm.
And that's kind of what's here.
That's great. We're going to send that out next week and put it in the vault. I want to take a couple of questions really fast because I want to make sure everybody talks about this case in a little breakout
Yep.
environment. Do you give time off for volunteering?
We do. And we do a lot of volunteering events on site during work hours as well, where we'll be packing boxes or, doing some sort of making cards for the local senior home. I mean, it's whatever that particular plant has focused on and has a partnership with, they make time for it.
What about someone's asking if you can share which engagement survey company you're using and how is that data being leveraged versus that culture index?
Great question. So the engagement survey data, um, we've used several. We outgrew Amplify. We loved them and then outgrew them. We now are using Qualtrics, and we're using all of our own generated questions that have been developed with the executive team on exactly what we want to be measuring. And so it isn't one framework or anything like that. These are all in. One thing that I think has worked for us is we've really tailored everything that we do to Lippertize word choices and are the questions that we ask. We have a bunch of questions in there around quality of life in particular, which feeds into the quality of life measurement of the culture index. We also have the engagement survey that's in the culture index.
Last question, and then Evan's going to send us into a quick breakout. Trish is asking if there's any components that are unionized, labor
We
organized.
Not many. We have a select few. We do have some people on piece rate, but it's not the majority.
Great. So for all of you first timers here, we like to do this quick networking session. We suggest a couple of questions just to get you started, but it's really your time to get to know each other. You could talk about, your takeaways from the case study. And I'm curious, do you measure the impact of your leadership development efforts on turnover? Clearly, you can't take all credit for it, but is turnover one of the things you're talking about when you're trying to show those outcomes? And so, Evan, I think with an eye on the clock, maybe we're going to do 8 minutes with small groups here, and then we will call you all back. I will show you my stupid pet trick, or I mean AI tip of the month, and then we'll send you off to the weekend. Welcome back, Matthew. Welcome back, Kara. Welcome back, Jessica, Ryan, Tony. We're all coming back into the room now. Hopefully you met some new friends or reconnected with someone you met in a prior thing, shared a couple of thoughts, and you can see all the other rooms are getting forced out. I love it when we get people mid-sentence. It means they were, had such a wild time in there. We get the end of their answer as they come through. It's always a good sign. Welcome back. Welcome back. You didn't want to leave. You know how to find each other, right? You'll exchange names, get a little LinkedIn group, little real world group, coffee spot or something. Everyone, the case study was so awesome that we're short on time on the back end. I just want to very quickly show a little AI tip, as I said I was. And then for those who can stick around a couple extra minutes, we can chat further. What I want to do today, and my goal with the AI stuff is AI is transforming our lives, our worlds, our careers, and not a lot of people have a lot of time to invest in it. And so each month, I just want to share one thing to keep us all growing and learning. And I thought it'd be fun today to share how you can use Chat GPT or Gemini or your favorite AI chatbot to be your own personal personality coach. So I want to start, and it's never about the specific thing. It's just an example to be like, oh, I didn't know it could do that, or oh, that's an interesting way to write prompts. And so, for example, now I'm going to use DISC because it is the most widely used personality assessment. Most of us are familiar with the DISC model. And I'm going to start with something simple here. I'm using ChatGPT, the 4.0 version, but it doesn't really matter. And I'm going to tell it I am a DISC type CD, which is true. Please give me general advice about my strengths and possible derailers. What are my blind spots? And tips for maximizing my relationships at work. So the kind of stuff you would get from your DISC report, right? Or maybe you don't know where that PDF is that you got 3 years ago and you want a refresher. And so I'm going to type this in, and we can immediately see that ChatGPT knows exactly what I'm talking about with the DISC behavioral assessment. And it's given me quite a long list of things. As a CD type, I have a blend of conscientiousness and dominance. Here's my key strengths. More fun is my derailers. Ooh, I'm rigid. I'm overly critical. I'm impatient. Lead Xers, this is where you stay quiet. Nothing in the chat, please. This is a one-man show right now. Tips for maximizing relationships at work. So not bad for a one-sentence thing. I want to show you how you can really enhance the value when you enhance the prompt. Hey, Dwayne, do you know your DISC type by any chance?
Yes, sir.
What
I
is
do. It's a DI.
It's a DI. So what if I did this
Yep.
prompt? What if I say, give me advice for managing an employee with a specific style? I want your advice to be no longer than 500 words. And I want to know these categories: strengths, motivating, communicating, developing, team dynamics. Don't use a concluding paragraph. I want specific actions I can take to motivate and engage this person. Would you say DI?
Yes,
All
sir.
right. All right. Let's see. How would I lead Dwayne Best the best? All right. So here's a little overview here. Set challenging goals. Lots of autonomy. I do know that about you, Dwayne, by the way. Communicating. Developing. How about some specific actions? Set a stretch goal. This week, assign a challenging project. Public recognition. Identify a project where they can take the lead. So here, again, I've only had 3 minutes to demonstrate. You can use ChatGPT to get insights into your own personality. You can get insights into how to work with your colleagues if you know their style. Now, the assessment companies hate this, but you can actually ask ChatGPT to diagnose your style. You could say, ask me 20 questions to diagnose my DISC personality style. Pause after every question so I can answer it, and it will give you a diagnosis. The crazy thing about it is, of course, it knows all the different programs. So, for example, we know that the 4-quadrant program, social styles, DISC, what are some of the other ones? They're all based on the Jungian, Carl Jung. And so I could say something like, if I'm a DISC C type, what color would I be in the insights discovery system? So it's saying I'm cool blue, which those of us who are insights certified know that C and cool blue correlate to each other. What quadrant of social styles would I be? And it should be analytical. So what you might do with this yourself, I don't know. What you might do with this in your workshops, if you're doing personality, a personality workshop, a behavioral workshop, and people have access to ChatGPT, on their phone or on the web. But this is just one example of how GBT is going to start inching into the coaching space. So on that note, because we're already a minute over, I want to everyone, big thanks to Kim for sharing your case study and materials. Thanks everybody for participating. I'm going to hang around for a couple more minutes, and I hope I see all of you back next month for the next community of practice. Dwayne, where was your vacation this summer?
So I just got back, buddy. I just got back this past weekend. So I want you to close your eyes, Kevin, and I want you to think of rural America, and I want you to go into a Walmart. Then I want you to go to the most ghetto place that you can think of and go into that Walmart. You blend those people together and you put them on a cruise ship. And that's what I just got back from.
So you were in a blended Walmart in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah, it was 30 of my family members, and there's 30 of us. And I know we normally go, my wife and I, we normally will do like Virgin or, Royal Caribbean. But this time with all the family, we went on Carnival. And
Okay.
It was interesting.
Sounds like you weren't 100% sold on doing it again on Carnival.
If I'm looking to do a study on humanity, I would. But it was fascinating. It was super fascinating. But everyone was super down to earth. But I had to do actually first aid on a young lady because it took forever for like the medical team to actually respond. So it was crazy. It was crazy.
Oh
But good time. But good.
Yeah, it sounds like you might need a vacation. You need a vacation from your vacation.
You know what? It would be nice to actually have one of those, to be honest with you. So we'll see. We'll see.
What did you think about this little AI demonstration around personality?
Actually, I really like this. Honestly, I like the fact that, what I took away is how you kind of manipulate the prompting, Evan. And I think I just need to do a much better job of being more creative and more specific with my prompting, because this thing can do so many freaking things. Yeah. Just like you said right there, you're like, what's the best way to coach this person or communicate, or what are my blind spots? How awesome to do an inventory on yourself or how you connect with others. I love it.
Yeah, I didn't have time to show it, but that's the interesting thing of it's the easiest thing is to feed it your personality type, the personality type of your boss or your direct report or someone maybe that you're getting ready to have a crucial conversation with, and get advice, like on the spot. You could feed it what the conflict conversation is about, your personality type, any other things, and then it almost becomes like a negotiation coach, in some ways as well. And I'm learning a lot too, Dwayne. I think that is what I'll try to share more in the future is most of us by default use it almost like Google, like we just ask it a question or we put one sentence in. But when you really think about, how much to put in, the different things you can put in, it really enhances the quality quite a bit. I saw someone feed it a 10-page prompt, 10 pages long, to generate like the perfect job description for a new hiring role. And so like there's really no limits to it, but it's almost like a new skill, right? We all need to learn.
Yeah. Do you think you could, what came to mind for me, and plus you're offering this great opportunity with LeadX, but could you do something like, here's the scenario that's taking place, here's the personality type, and from a situational leadership, standpoint, here's where they are, and maybe how would I give that feedback, giving growth? You know what I mean? Like, could you blend things together to put something together like that?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, Dwayne, you've given me, ideas, because that's where, even back in the Biohaven days, I would get a little confused. It's like, wait a minute, we're teaching both SL2 and grow coaching. So how do you do both of those things in the field? Like, which one is it? Or level 2 here, but I'm on the R step, it's like, it starts to get circular. So maybe Chat GPT can be my coach in those areas.
I'm going to try that. I'm literally going to try that now.
Yeah. And, hey, anyone who has suggestions for things to try out with Chat GPT, with AI, if you have questions about AI, happy to tackle them in the months ahead. So that's great. Kim, I see you're firing away, trying to answer as many questions as possible, which of course we always capture these and summarize them as well. Incredible case study.
Sorry to blow up the chat. I'm trying to catch up. There was a really good question that was in here, Kevin, worth sharing. Somebody asked, we don't see much diversity on your team. We felt that way as well. In fact, we just hired our first female and our first person of color on our board. And so it's very representative of old school Midwestern manufacturing, but I'm happy to say that that has changed in even just in this year. Globally, we have people working in Tunisia and that are kind of representative of the diversity that we do have. And we just, Andrew Dormis, I think may still be on here. He might have popped off. He's part of my leadership development coordinator who is an amazing new addition as well. So we're actively trying to make sure we get more and more diverse. The first step was women. So we were all male there for a while, and it was just two of us that were female. And so that was the first step.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you shared that. Congrats on taking those steps. Congrats to the person who brought the question up to inquire. Kim, when we were in our breakout room, I was going to bring this up earlier and forgot to bring it up at the top of the hour, which is, I don't know how many of you are members of SHRM. Not all trainers are part of the HR world, but sort of a fight broke out this week because SHRM's CEO, Dwayne, I don't know if you heard this, he came out at their annual meeting on stage and said they're officially dropping the E, the equity, from their DEI. So they're not, they used to call it DEI, then they switched it to IED so that the inclusivity was paramount. And then he said, we're dropping the E and no longer talking about equity. We aim to address the current shortcomings of DE&I programs, which have led to societal backlash and increasing polarization, which sounds like a lot of bull to me. But it's certainly, you look at the comments on LinkedIn, a lot of people are resigning, a lot of people are protesting, but clearly that action was made because there was voices on the other side. I don't know, Dwayne, this is just hot off the press, but any initial reactions to the official HR body saying we're no longer putting the E in DEI?
Yeah, it's that I think a lot of times that's where people get hung up in just the debate of, what does equity mean, and sometimes they confuse equity with parity and some other things, and
Right.
It can be very convoluted, So, I think if we were further along of where we currently are, I could understand that approach. But I do believe that when you start playing semantics, when there's so much work to be done, we're moving our eye off the ball of what the real problem is,
Yeah.
So that's interesting that they would move the E. What article is this? Because I'd love to read more about this.
Yeah, I'll drop the link, or I'll send it to you because I saw it on LinkedIn first. They had their big meeting and he announced it in a speech, and then on the SHRM LinkedIn channel, they're announced it. And if anything, I would have hoped, as you said, Dwayne, that's the perfect organization to try to educate the world what it really means. I think people don't understand, or people who are against women in leadership programs or other programs, that they misunderstand what those programs are about. But and I wouldn't think that I wouldn't think it would be a political issue, but clearly it is. So it's just surprised me.
Yeah, this is Jeff Mills here, Virgin Galactic. To bring it back to L&D, I've kind of given up on what they can call it, whatever they want to call it, right? It starts to feel like the flavor of the month, right?
Yeah.
Where Stephen Bailey, who is sort of a thought leader in the L&D space, he has this concept that has got me excited, and that is one of the ways I can move the needle as an L&D professional is equitable access for underrepresented minorities and women in my career enhancement development programs. Because a lot of times that's where you could begin to have that impact as an L&D professional, right? I've got no ability to control what hiring leaders do and so forth. but I can continue to be a fly on the wall and go, ooh, not seeing any women. We got this new cohort of leaders in our leadership development program. Wow, where are women? Where are underrepresented minorities? And I think, that for me as an L&D professional has been kind of one of my saving graces, because as I said, the if they want to call it DEI or IED or whatever they want to call it, I mean, it's just semantics for me. I look at it in terms of at the end of the year, can I look back at the programs that I'm responsible for and show that they had that kind of diversity and representation in those programs?
Jeff, I hope you're right in that organizations that support these kinds of efforts for the right reasons will just continue. So like, who cares what SHRM says and who cares what the initials are, right?
Yeah.
I do worry that this gives cover to organizations that just don't want to spend money or something like that. But I don't know.
And but Jeff, I think you bring up a good point, and the whole equity part is more about access.
Right.
And when people hear the word, equity, DEI, the whole equity and equitable aspect, you think that individuals are going to receive things that they haven't earned.
Right. They think it means like equal, automatic equal or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's more about access to things, versus that. Because I had this conversation with some peers just the other day, believe it or not, and the conversation we were speaking of is we're all creatures of habit. So if Kevin has a role, if Kim has a role open, or Lori, whomever on the call, we say, hey, you got to go hire, think about someone. What are you going to do? You're going to go to your network. And 9 times out of 10, your network may look like you or have the same experience as you. So you're going to even ask those people to pull from individuals. So even like network marketing, 3 levels down, you're going to get a lot of sameness coming your way just by human nature, not because you're trying to, only pick people like you. It's just, that's just how we are. We live in these tribes, right? So you have to actually be a lot more intentional because of the unconscious biases that exist in the tribes in which we live in, to actually go out and bring in different people that aren't like you for diversity of thought, race, creed, color, religion, and you name it. So there has to be more intentionality behind it. And to your point, Kevin, it's kind of disheartening that they would, instead of educating and conceding, instead of educating, they're conceding, and that's kind of disheartening.
Right.
There's, and I, recognize some of the face here that we've been gathering monthly for a long time now. And I can remember when DEI initiatives, it was almost like the only thing people were talking about around the time of George Floyd, right? And then we saw in all of a sudden the benchmark survey, wait a minute, DEI programs went from number 1 or 2 priority to, what was it, like 9? And Dwayne, I remember you and I were talking about, it's like, well, that's interesting. We certainly haven't solved those issues, right? But we saw it drop. And now there's this, and it's like, it's almost like predicting the trend of what or the backlash or whatever the word they used, about this. But anyway. All right, everyone. Hey, happy Friday. Hope you have a great weekend. Hope this was at least one of your favorite meetings of the month, if not the best meeting of the month. And we'll see you next month.